What is up, guys? Thanks for coming to Why So Sidious a Nerd podcast. We have a special guest here, the Omnibus God, David over there running a really cool comic book, TikTok, YouTube, and any other platform.
No, just TikTok and YouTube.
For sure. A gigantic omnibus collection. Yeah, and great content to go along with it. So, David, thanks for coming on, dude. Excited to talk some Spider-Man. That's our topic today.
Hell yeah. Thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. I've personally followed this dude for at least a couple of years now, so I've always tuned in. Great content. Yeah, and today we're going to do Spider-Man comics in general. Probably like talk about all of his eras. I personally haven't had a ton of Spider-Man reading like pre-2000s. Besides maybe Venom and the first ever Spider-Man stuff and Amazing Fantasy. That's about it. So interested to hear what you got for that kind of era. We're also going to highlight the first arc of J. Michael Straczynski's Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man run. It's called Coming Home. It introduces a really cool new villain, Morlun, and adds a lot of lore to Spider-Man's powers. So I think it's a really good comic. And yeah, we'll save that one for the end. And David, yeah, so how are you doing? How's TikTok going? How's YouTube going?
Pretty good. Yeah, I've been on the YouTube grind more than anything recently. But even then, I've just kind of been taking a little bit of break with creating content. I've got a lot of stuff that I'm just like compiling, I've been posting. I mean, TikTok I post pretty regularly though, because it's just so easy to do over there, as you know. But yeah, no, it's good, man. It's awesome to be able to kind of have a creative outlet and communicate, with other people in the community like this, right? Like it's just cool to meet people. I think that's probably my favorite part. Yeah, I've been talking to some newer people too, so it's just fun.
Right. Yeah. You could. Social media has positive or negative effects on society, but for like a lot of maybe like private businesses for people or like things like the comic book community, so cool to get to connect with all you guys and talk comics and share what everyone's reading and all this stuff. I respect the depth you guys go into your content. That's something I kind of strive to improve in the near future. So yeah, it's really cool to see you guys really dig in. I'm really curious about the 80s and 90s Spider-Man.
Hell yeah.
And because I'm sure there's really good arcs that I'm missing, right? But we'll get into that. Yeah. We got a few questions for David here, starting with, so this man has a massive omnibus collection, like I said, compared to, Tyler from Illuminati.
Yes, I do know Illuminati.
You guys have the most massive comic book or omnibus collections on TikTok, I think.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So anyway, if you had to pick only 2 Spider-Man omnibuses to keep, had to get rid of all the rest ones, which 2 are you keeping? Sorry.
No, you're good. So yeah, I had to think about this one, but so I've got a pretty good Spider-Man collection. I'm in my bedroom right now, so I don't have it on my backdrop, but I ended up deciding the Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 2, which is Lee and Romita Jr. That's when Romita Jr. comes in. So it's like 39 to like 66.
Wait, which one is it?
It's the Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 2.
Okay, and that's not like Straczynski's Volume 2?
No, that's just like straight up like Volume 2 of the Amazing Spider-Man run.
Period. Okay.
Yeah, just period. So it's like it's literally issues 39 through 66 with like some other stuff and stuff from here and there. But yeah, it's just, so that's Romita going in, Ditko, he was on with Lee up till issue 38. He did Amazing Fantasy 15 as well, and then some annuals. So Ditko has like a 40 issue run, about maybe like 41. And after he left, because him and Lee weren't getting along, and he had been doing it for 3 years at that point, the next artist was John Romita Sr. And I've got a YouTube video on both of them, but my Romita video was like me talking about, like, I have it titled "The Man Who Upgraded Spider-Man," because like that's just that era, not just in the writing and like in the character work, but like visually, like Spider-Man just really becomes like more heroic. He becomes like more mature. It's so good. And the stories, you would think it's Silver Age, so like obviously like Lee is kind of a yappy guy or was a yappy guy, but that's just kind of the writing at the time. But like
Is this
storytelling, go ahead.
is this Jim Lee you're talking about?
Stanley.
Stanley. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So it's Stanley on writing, and then John Romita Jr. on art, or John Romita Sr. on artwork. But he would do some plotting stuff as well. But yeah, so that Omni, I adore. I don't know if I should have. I probably should have brought them, huh? So I could have shown them off. But yeah, I love that omnibus. And then my second one would be Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1 by Brian Michael Bendis and Bagley. That's just another one where it's like I could just like geek out and like go on a whole yapathon about why I love Ultimate Spider-Man so much. But basically, short version of it is it was something that I was reading kind of growing up. Like I would read the paperbacks. Obviously, it was before like when that stuff was coming out. I was like a baby, but the paperbacks were pretty available when I was a kid, and the run was still going. And so it was just stuff that I read as kind of the first stuff that I got exposed to. And it's just such a great, like, kind of like second life to the character of Spider-Man, and like kind of is the most truthful version of a youthful Spider-Man, you know? Because like
True.
When Stan Lee and Steve Ditko were writing Spider-Man in his high school years, like it's the 60s. So like a 60s teenager is not the same as like, you know, a 2000s teenager, or even I would even say like, you know, someone from like the 90s teenager or something, you know what I mean? Like it's just so different. And even then, like Peter just, I don't know, Peter's really not that young, like in the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko era. He technically is because he's in high school, but it's like, yeah, you could read it as him just being like a young adult. But with Bendis and Bagley, it's like, boom, this is a kid. This is a kid who's messing up. He's making mistakes. He's scared. You know, he doesn't know what to do with his powers. And I think that they captured that amazingly. So that's why I adore that run so much. And Volume 1 specifically, it's just a great start. It's just a great start.
I agree. I have this thing where Volume 1s of most series end up as my favorites. Like the writers commit to making it so good, you know, to get people on board their whole run. And, you know, some series, they can get better towards the end. Like Rick Remender's Uncanny Avengers. I think that one, the Volume 1 is not too good, but it gets better and better. So many Volume 1s are like the best of the series, in my opinion, a lot of the time.
I agree. Because they have to.
Here, we have a question here in the chat, David. What is your favorite Spider-Man movie portrayal? Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield?
So my favorite Spider-Man movies go to Tobey. So the Raimi films, those are probably my favorite live actions. My favorite Spider-Man is Tom Holland. I think Tom Holland does the best job of being Spider-Man. Again, it's kind of similar, right, to what we were talking about with like Lee and Ditko. They were writing a teenager, but like you could kind of pass him off as a young adult. It's kind of the same thing with Raimi's Spider-Man. Like Tobey Maguire is not a teenager, but he's in high school in that first movie. And Tom Holland, he's got that youthfulness about him. And I think, I mean, when you get like really nitpicky, which like I don't mind if people do, but like I think his build, you know, kind of the slimmer build to the character, I kind of prefer, like, you know, Bagley, how he draws him. I think his like mannerisms and like his quirkiness, sometimes it could be a little bit too much for Peter Parker, but I think he does that really well. Andrew Garfield's pretty good too, and I know people have the argument where they're like, oh, he's too cool, but it's like Peter Parker was kind of cool too. Like in college, Peter Parker, like that Ramita and Lee era that I was talking about, Peter Parker was cool. He was a cool guy. Like people liked him. He got the ladies. So I don't think that's the problem. I just think Garfield's movies are just so bad that the performance can't save it for me. Like I'm just like, no, it's like it doesn't save it. Tom Holland, I think, gets everything that I love about the character. The emotion, you know, he's got a lot of heavy moments in the MCU. So Tom Holland's my guy.
I think he's the best combo of Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And I think even Tobey Maguire might have been the best Peter Parker, and Andrew Garfield might have been the best Spider-Man individually, but Tom Holland's the best of both.
Yeah. I like that. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the question there in the comments. Let's see what our next question is here for you. So, yes, what's the most important Spider-Man story pre-2000s besides Venom or Carnage?
So this is before 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Pre. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if we're not counting, I think the safe answer is Amazing Fantasy 15, right? But if we're not doing that, if we're not being like, like jerks about it, I want to say, I feel like this is a safe answer as well, but I want to say probably the death of Gwen Stacy, that story arc.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yes.
120, 121. Also, the death of the Green Goblin. I think just the fact that they decided to do something that impactful and huge to this character that at that time was blowing up. Like at that point, a lot of people might think that Spider-Man was popular out the gate, and he was to an extent, but like Fantastic Four was still outselling him. But by the time you get to that like 70s era of Spider-Man and Kirby leaves Fantastic Four and just in general Marvel, Spider-Man now becomes that number one guy. And so it's interesting that with him becoming kind of the face of Marvel, the first thing they do is like, let's kill his love interest. Like, it's crazy, but I think it works. And I know there's a lot of argument about like, the refrigerator girlfriend theory. I don't
Kyle
know.
Rayner.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Which that totally exists and that's totally real and like it's been done. But I think genuinely Gwen Stacy was not made for that, right? She was created by Lee and Ditko and then kind of molded by Lee and Romita Sr. And I think when they made that decision with Conway and everybody, it was like, we need to have stakes. We need to do things that are going to make the reader emotional and say, wow, this is not traditional for the time. And it influenced a bunch of stuff to where tragedy is almost expected with Spider-Man.
Right.
And really,
comics in general.
Right, in comics in general. So I'd probably say the death of Gwen Stacy. I know it's a little safe, but
no, it's a great answer.
Yeah,
I've actually read that one too.
Yeah, and
because that's 60s or 70s. I think it's 60s.
It's early. I think it's early 70s.
Okay.
Either it's really late 60s or really early 70s. I'm almost certain it's 70s though.
Yeah,
like 72 or something.
I actually think that was the first Spider-Man comic I ever read. Was the
really? That's funny.
Yeah.
That'd be a funny first comic to read of Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, and much later, right? So not when it came out. So this is like,
right.
I started when in college around 20. So that was one of the first ones and really good. Yeah. And I have a tough time with the older style. I think that is because I started reading comics later, but it just doesn't really like translate to like the real world. I mean, like the way people talk and the characterizations of people can be just very goofy and corny and a little outdated.
Yeah.
So that's why I have trouble with Claremont's X-Men, even though it's everyone's absolute favorite. But
really,
Omnibus 3 has been really getting me. I'm loving it. Like there's so much Cyclops background. It's the Brood saga, the Magic miniseries is in there. So now I'm wondering, now that I'm kind of adapted to the vibe and the style, that I kind of want to go back and try Dark Phoenix again and all that stuff. But because like you said, that the death of Gwen Stacy and Stakes kind of paved the way, after that, the way that like Frank Miller and Alan Moore kind of added stakes and got out of the status quo for their comics too, and kind of birthed eventually what became the modern age, where comics got pretty dark. Like most of them are just.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've never thought of that. Actually, that's actually dope. I like that. Yeah.
And what about Grant Morrison's Animal Man? You read that one?
Yes, that's probably top 3 comic for me of all time.
So. Right, and Grant Morrison's like, people want tragedy. People want to see you go through terrible things. Like that's like, what does that say? So that is interesting. All right. Next question. So do you have any omnibus, even outside of Spider-Man, that is just you want it super bad, but you can't get it? It's out of print, too expensive, like a White Whale omnibus for you?
Yeah. So luckily my Spider-Man collection is pretty full and it's everything that I want. The only things I'm missing from Spider-Man are stories that either double dip with other stories and omnis, or I just don't think are good in any way. I think the Untold Tales, I don't have that. The John Byrne omnibus is kind of a mess, so I don't really care for that. But my Omni, my current white whale, I recently caught a white whale, which was Astonishing X-Men by Whedon and Cassidy.
Nice.
And I'm reading that right now, and it's so good.
It is, yeah.
Now that I have that one, my new white whale that was also a white whale before is it's kind of funny. It's Devil Dinosaur by Jack Kirby omnibus. I don't know if you've seen it. I think it's the shortest.
Never heard of it.
It's the shortest omnibus I think ever. Like I think it's like 300 pages, and it's I think it's like 12 issues or 10, something like that. But Jack Kirby's my favorite creator of all time. He's my favorite storyteller just in general, and definitely my favorite artist. So I read Devil Dinosaur digitally, and it's just, I mean, it's a silly story about like a kid, like a humanoid ape kid and his pet dinosaur that's like a volcanic dinosaur. And it's just Kirby drawing creatures and dinos, and there's technology in there. It's a very Kirby. And it's just a beautiful story about like friendship and brotherhood. And I love it. And I want that Omni so bad. I could get it. But originally, I think the Omni went for like $50, and it's like selling because it's super out of print, and they've never reprinted it. I think because it's such a obscure series, so like it's going for like $100, which in Omni terms isn't bad,
right?
But it's like I'm also like holding off, like just let them reprint it, please. Yeah. But that's, I guess, my next whale that I'm hoping to get maybe soon, maybe.
So I'm having trouble with omnibus or trades. Omnibus is literally just physically harder to read. Trades are so easy to read.
That's valid, but
and then the omnibus though is just so complete, and it's bigger, and it's just something so cool about a freaking omnibus. But yeah, if I had a white whale, I really wanted that Doctor Doom omnibus that came out a few years ago. I collected like all of his stuff from his first appearance, a bunch of significant appearances and other people's titles, and then I don't know, maybe all the way up to like Avengers Children's Crusade or something.
Yeah, that's a good one. I kind of forgot about that one. I really kick myself for not getting that one. My LCS had, so I missed out on the print like when it was in stock, right? And I shop like the discount places. And so I missed out on it that way because I was just like, I don't know if I need this. But there's some really good material in there that's just never been printed before, especially in hardcover edition and oversized. But then my LCS, one of my LCSs had it they just had it. And they do, the owner, I'm in Minnesota. It's called Issues Needed. Shout out Issues Needed. The owner is super cool. Like you could talk to him and like haggle, and he's so down for it. Like you could just be like, can you give me $30 off? I'll do 20. Oh, what about 25? Okay, I'll give you 25. Like you could just do that with them. So I definitely could have got that Doom Omni for a pretty decent deal, but it was sitting for a year, and I was like, I'll get it later. They'll do a Black Friday sale. I'll get it later. And then I went in and it was gone. And I was like, what the? So that's a good one, though. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's so frustrating to see a price that you could afford, and you're like, "Oh wait,
right."
It goes out of print and it disappears, and it's just like that price is doubled or tripled. I mean,
exactly.
That could be annoying. Avengers Hickman Omnibus 1 is also, I really want that thing because it was super available, and I put all my trades on eBay, and someone bought it. All my trades for one purchase, and I was like, cool, I'll go get the money with because I plan to just put that money into the omnibuses just to switch the collection. And sure enough, it was out of print, so I got Omni 2. No, that's all I got from Hickman Avengers.
That's the worst when you have like either the second volume or like a bunch of middle volumes, but you can't get like, I can't tell you how many comments I get about people being like, when are they reprinting Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 2? And I'm like, dude, I wish I knew, but just hold off. And then people don't want to buy Volume 1. And I'm like, no, buy volume 1, buy volume 3 and 4, because then you're gonna have the same problem, just a different volume. Because you don't want to buy volume 1 because volume 2 is out of print. Then volume 2 comes into print, and you buy that volume 2, or you're like, oh, okay, I can buy it now. But then volume 1's out of print, and it's like same situation, different volume. So I'm a really big guy of like, just get what's available, and then if you need to backtrack. Because the way Marvel goes about printing, specifically Marvel, the way Marvel goes about printing their Omnis, it's just so random that like they do listen to the fans, but yeah, dude, it's just, you would think, I mean, with certain things, they hit it on the head, right? There's a Avengers movie coming out, boom, new Avengers omnibus, right?
Right.
But then, like, right now, why haven't they reprinted that Doom Omni? There's so much hype with Doomsday, right? And I guarantee you they're not going to reprint it when the movie comes out, because that's probably the argument is, oh, they're waiting for closer to the movie. But so many movies have come out and they just have not cared to reprint things or release things. I don't know. They move at a really weird pace, and it's really random. There's no pattern to it almost.
Right. Yeah, I've also been waiting for Garth Ennis Punisher Omnibus Volume 2 to reprint.
Yeah, dude. They reprinted that Volume 1 so long ago.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the other thing. It's like they reprint a Volume 1, so you're like almost gearing yourself up to get the rest of the stuff. And they just either they take forever, or like they just don't do it. They just don't do it. It's so weird. I don't know.
And Bendis's Ultimate Spider-Man, it's just like everybody's favorite, and everyone wants those omnibuses, and it's just reprint them, man. You're gonna get sales. I don't see a strategical advantage of waiting for like a Doomsday movie to come out to reprint Doctor Doom, when a lot of people want to do that reading before the movie.
Exactly.
Or like, with your first trailer or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that would be a good one. Last question before we dive a little bit into that JMS run. Most underrated Spider-Man story?
That's a hard one. I feel like a lot of stuff in the like late 60s, early 70s kind of goes under the radar. I don't know if there's any like a specific storyline or like original, story or anything, but I think people don't talk enough about like just Jerry Conway's time on Spider-Man. So like, maybe that's not true. Actually, I don't know. That's a hard question. Man, you know what? I'll throw this out there. I'll throw it some ball knowledge. There's this book called Spider-Man Hooky. It's an original graphic novel. It's written by, I can't remember the lady's name because she's actually not even a comic writer. Like, there's no history behind this person besides her name tied to Hooky. But it's an original graphic novel. The best thing about it is it's drawn by Bernie Wrightson, the creator of Swamp Thing, and just like one of the greatest artists of all time. And it's like this fantastical Spider-Man story where like he meets this girl who has like magical powers, and they go into an alternate like kind of dimension place. And the best way I describe it is it's like Spider-Man meets Dungeons and Dragons. And it's just like this fantastical like adventure that's like beautifully drawn, and the story is pretty cute too. Like it's again, it's funny because the author, I can't remember her name. I feel so bad, but that's the only credit she has to comics is that book. So like, I'm just like, who is this lady? But I'll go Spider-Man Hooky. I feel like not enough people talk about that, but
yeah, never heard of it.
Yeah, definitely check it out. It's a beautiful book, at least.
For sure. You know, it's funny, after rereading what we're about to cover, I almost feel like this story is super underrated. The Coming Home arc with Morlun.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, JMS's run is weird because it gets brought up a lot. And I don't know, this is like a low-key, a deeper conversation. I've had this conversation, and I'm kind of working on a YouTube video about it. But Spider-Man, for how popular he is and how massive of a name he is, not just as a superhero, for Marvel, but as a fictional character, right, is actually I ultimately kind of not underrated, but he's almost a little underlooked, I would say, especially when you compare him to heroes like Batman, like any DC, right? It's like a Marvel DC thing. I was recently having a conversation with a friend about it where it's like the biggest Spider-Man stories, just because of the way that they're produced and the way that they're made, don't have the same impact as, say, the biggest Batman stories. Right. You would think that with a character like Spider-Man, with how massive and popular he is, there would be some sort of comparable, like, you know, I guess you could say like bar for bar with quality. Like let's say Batman, right?
Yeah. Agreed.
Like you were talking about it, right? Like a Miller. Batman Year One and Dark Knight Returns are constantly brought up. They're some of the most brought up comics of all time. And they not only changed like Batman comics and the Batman mythos, but they had a change to comics, like the way comics were made, the way comics were written. They have these massive impacts. And if you just look at it numbers wise, because like this was a conversation that like I was looking into the numbers. When you think of like Spider-Man's most popular stories, like let's say like a Kraven's Last Hunt, right, is what a lot of people would say is like probably his best story ever, or most like best written story ever.
Yeah.
They're not reaching the numbers of like a Batman Year One.
Yeah. Or like a Long Halloween or something.
Exactly. That's another one, like a Long Halloween. I mean, you could look on anything. You could look on apps like Comic Geeks. You could look on Goodreads. You could just do simple like Google searches, like the Google Trends thing, where you can see like, you know, how people search stuff throughout the decades. And Batman is just constantly more impactful to the medium of comics. Yeah, he's been around longer, but with how massive Spider-Man is, it's almost a shock. Like I'm just like, how is nobody like not enough people are reading Spider-Man, I feel like, to that extent. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I think people are sold on Spider-Man, the merchandise, like the you know, the movies, the TV
the aesthetics
shows.
of them, dude.
There you go. Yeah, the aesthetics. But like story wise, it's like, yeah, I could talk to you about like the Silvermane stuff in the 70s with Conway and the original gang war and with DeFalco and, you know, all these stuff. And it's like, but people like, there's just no interest enough to go back to that. But when it comes to Batman, it's like, yeah, you want to start reading Batman Year One. You don't really have that with Spider-Man, at least main continuity.
100%. You end up sending them to Bendis Ultimate Spider-Man for
exactly,
that kind of
right?
thing.
And it's like there's no problem with that, but I mean, at the end of the day, when people do that with Batman, they're not sending you. I guess nowadays maybe you could with, although I don't know if you would want to send anyone to Absolute Batman for their first.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like, regardless of the fact, like Batman, even Scott Snyder's Batman, right? Like the Scott Snyder Batman is definitely more brought up and brought more readers to comics than probably any Spider-Man comic.
Mm-hmm.
And I mainly think the root of it all is just how DC functions opposed to Marvel, but that's a whole thing too.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that from a very logical perspective. From a feeling perspective, like I felt Spider-Man comics never reached the bar of Batman. And there's a lot of good Spider-Man comics. Like there's always been good Spider-Man comics, but there doesn't seem to be like Spider-Man comics that really reach that level of a Long Halloween or like your Jeff Johns Green Lantern or something like that. So a lot of good comics, just not a lot of amazing, like great comics for Spider-Man. And that surprised me coming into comics late with how popular Spider-Man is. I expected Spider-Man comics to be just like my favorite, but I don't think I could put a Spider-Man story in like my top 10 or anything.
And see, like for me, I could. Like, so here's what I'll say. I'm not saying, I think there are stories from Spider-Man that are better than Batman stories. But here's the thing. That's my opinion, because I actually went and I read the comics, right? Like you go back and you deep dive into it, because and then I did that. I think for a lot, I think in general, it's ultimately just harder to do. So it's not like, I'm not saying like, oh, if you kids just went to go read Spider-Man, you would know the truth. It's like, it's harder. And why would you, when the general mass is saying Batman Year One, Dark Knight Returns. These are genre defining stories. These are comics that impacted the landscape of the medium. Unfortunately, Spider-Man doesn't have that per se. Like, I think Gwen's Death of Gwen Stacy did it. I think Death of Gwen Stacy's up there. But most of the time with Spider-Man, it's single issues that are brought up that are kind of like impactful. But that's not how new readers read. They don't just go back and go like, what gets brought up a lot is like Spider-Man 50. That's the Spider-Man No More, the first appearance of the Kingpin. Spider-Man gives up. He doesn't want to be a hero anymore.
I had no clue Kingpin's first appearance was in Spider-Man. That's sick.
Yeah, he's originally a Spider-Man villain. And he was a Spider-Man villain for a really long time. But like people will bring up like Spider-Man 50. They'll bring up like maybe Spider-Man 39. That's when we find out Norman is the Green Goblin. Amazing Fantasy 15, right? That's the first appearance of Spider-Man. But again, with Batman, people are bringing up story arcs. They're bringing up eras. And Spider-Man gets brought up eras too. Like, I think JMS actually does get brought up pretty often. Bendis's Ultimate gets brought up pretty often. But like, unless you're a Spider-Man fan, you don't know any of this. And it's like it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost hard because every time I get asked, like, how can I get into Spider-Man comics? Like, what should I read? What's a good starting thing? I have to think and I have to ask questions and I have to be like, what do you know about Spider-Man?
Right.
What do you like about Spider-Man? What have you been exposed to with Spider-Man? With Batman,
it's easy, yeah.
Go read Batman Year One,
yeah,
and then come back to me. Tell me what you like about it. I'll redirect you again. Go read Long Halloween. Go read Dark Victory.
Very true.
Like with Spider-Man, someone asked me, where should I start reading Spider-Man? I want to say I want to say Amazing Fantasy 15,
right?
And read up to issue XXX.
Yeah.
And they're not going to do that though. They're not going to do that because they're going to look at the page and they're going to see all the dialogue and they're going to be like, this is not the same. This is like, I don't know if you've seen the discourse, but even with Batman Year One, this new gen of readers, they don't even like that because that's too much.
I've seen that.
Like, people are like, I know it's mainly a joke, but I've actually seen so many people like complain about the cursive and Batman Year One and how it's just like, it's too much for them. And I'm like, so you're just eliminating that story because you're having a
tough time reading it.
Yeah, you're having a tough time reading the cursive, the lettering. Like, it's still an amazing story. I saw someone made a video about how Batman Year One doesn't feel like a Batman comic because James Gordon's involved.
This feels like the most Batman thing ever, dude. It feels so much like Batman.
I'm just like, so already, like, kind of the newer gen of comic readers are kind of digesting comics in a really different way. Mm-hmm. So if I try to give them Silver Age Spider-Man, they're going to their minds are going to explode. Like, they're just going to be like, what the? And they're not going to appreciate it because they're reading. I think the reason I appreciate Spider-Man so much and I appreciate all his stories, like even the Silver Age stuff that's like, I guess outdated. I don't think it is, but is because when I was a kid, I was reading Silver Age comics. So when I was 7 years old, I had the Marvel Essentials, the black and white paperbacks that like are kind of like phone books. And I was reading that as a kid. So that's what comics were to me. Same way like it was comics to a kid in the actual 60s. And then I grew up and you can have more nuanced like interpretations of these Silver Age comics to where you appreciate it. And at the end of the day, it's your favorite comic writer's favorite comics. Like, you talk to Grant Morrison loves like Silver Age, Bronze Age Batman, right? And that's what led them to create their stories that then had people be like, I love Grant Morrison's Batman. It's the same thing, right? But these newer gen comic readers, they're not kind of looking at it through that lens. They're not reading at the same age I was reading. So like they're like 15, 16, 18 years old starting to read comics. I was 7.
Right.
And because they're 18, obviously you're a teenager, your mind's a little different. Your thought process is, what the heck? This is a yap fest. I just want to read some cool comics. And then that's where
Exactly. Yeah.
that's where they get into like Scott Snyder Batman. It's like, oh yeah, and like I don't know. It's kind of like the difference between like popcorn reading or like just
In-depth reading.
in-depth reading, right? But
right. And that's a perfect example. Like I'm a perfect example of that. I have a tough time with older comics. But I wouldn't, if you had read that as a kid, like me as a kid, I loved Dragon Ball Z and I could rewatch Dragon Ball Z right now.
hell
But if it was the first time I ever seen Dragon Ball Z, I probably wouldn't like it because I'm like 30 years old and I wouldn't like the style, whatever it is, it wouldn't like resonate with me. But since I already have that connection, I could throw that thing on and love it, just love it. So I totally get it. And that's why when I say older comics don't work for me, I totally understand why they do work for those who have read comics since they were a kid and like read Claremont X-Men while I was coming out or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Spider-Man and the X-Men specifically have such a deep history, like pre-2000s. That's so much content that like I'm like missing out on, I haven't read a lot of that stuff. So yeah, just a lot of gaps in my Spider-Man knowledge and X-Men knowledge.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine, like I said, but like ultimately, again, it's the way that it's structured. It's the way that accessibility, I think, is the word for it. It's like Spider-Man, like on just like on a basic in the basis of it all, Spider-Man is really not as accessible as like say Batman.
True.
Because like again, there's too many things, there's too many sliders that you would kind of need to figure out before you could just be like, this is the Spider-Man run for you, or these are the Spider-Man comics for you. With Batman, it's like, yeah, dude, you kind of have to start here. Like you kind of have to have this be the beginning. You know what I mean?
Do you think that DC, if Spider-Man was a DC character, they would have treated him like Batman, and we would have multiple like great entry points for Spider-Man today? If he was released the way DC released their stuff?
To an extent. Oh, here, one second. Sorry, my fiance was taking the dogs. Here's short answer, yes. And to an extent. I think the thing that DC does and DC has done is they've kind of let their characters really be taken by their writers throughout like all the years. So for example, like let's really think about it. You look at a character like Spider-Man, and probably from 1963 to like maybe I want to say 19 or no, not even 19. So let's say 2000 like 2000 or later 2000s. That's probably the longest amount of time that Spider-Man's had actual growth and like, been moving forward, like character defining things, character defining changes, changing in status quo. That's what's happened, right? Like there's been a lot that's happened between that time. With Batman, it's not just happening at where he's moving forward in that same amount of time or maybe even longer, but it's occurring more and it's bigger. So like 2000 Spider-Man's a teacher. That's cool. That's a pretty big, nice change, right? We're talking about JMS, he's like the spider totem stuff. That's a pretty big change to the status quo, right? At that point, Batman had already had like 3 new Robins. One of them, I guess Red Hood hadn't been out yet, but at that point you start getting to one of them is coming back. Like
right. One of them evolves into a new character.
Like one of them is a whole different character. Like there's so many things that just keep changing with Batman. And it's because ultimately I think DC lets their creators take more constant risks and change the status quo and ultimately actually add to the mythos of their characters. So Batman is getting his back broken. Batman is being replaced by like a protege, and that protege is becoming evil. Batman is getting a bat family. He's going from being a loner, just having his one Robin, to having a multitude of cast members with him. Like it's just constant things. Even most recently, like, I mean, it's crazy that this even happened, but like the way that they worked up to it, no matter how you feel about it, but like Alfred is dead and he's still dead. And I know
that's a good point too. Yeah,
I know Alfred is. I know Matt Fraction's doing some stuff with it. I don't know, but ultimately he's dead. He's dead, and he's been dead, and he's probably going to stay dead. And that's a really big deal.
That's crazy. Yeah.
You know how many I would relate Alfred to Aunt May, right? In the sense 100%. Of like that kind of supporting character, that importance of a character. You know how many times they wanted to kill Aunt May, and then they said, no, wait. Let's take it back. Let's chill out a little bit. She's not actually dead. We can't do right. We can't Back in Black. There was Spider-Man 400. Hell, in the Silver Age with Leon Ditko, she was sick every other issue, and she was like deathly sick.
Yeah.
So they just don't want to do it up to a certain point, right? Like it's like if they want to stretch Spider-Man's character, it's like there's a limit to it. Whereas with Batman, they're all the way down the keep going, and they're just going. They're going. Does it work every time? Does it land every time? No. But is it better that do we get better stories off of it? I believe so.
Yeah.
Because I think Spider-Man stopped producing like fantastic, like wonderful comics consistently. I think that stopped with JMS. Like,
yeah.
At that point,
I agree.
I think after that, Brand New Day is kind of a mixed bag. You have wonderful moments in Brand New Day, and then Dan Slott's run is also kind of a mixed bag. There's really high highs, but there's I would say Slott doesn't necessarily have any low lows, but there's definitely moments where it's just kind of mid. It's just kind of like, yeah, there you go. That's great. Coasting. Whereas like Batman's had some low lows, like 2000s, right? Specifically. But then even if you like it or don't, I personally am not the biggest fan of Batman by Scott Snyder, like the New 52 stuff. I'm not crazy for it, but the impact on that run and the highs that it had and the attention that it had and the way that it sold and the way that it accomplished its mission of getting new readers, keeping old readers, that's huge.
Yes.
That's massive.
Yeah, compare the say the characters in Marvel to DC, like modern entry points for new readers: Green Lantern Rebirth, Flash Rebirth, Batman Year One, even Snyder's Batman 0 Year. You don't have that for Iron Man. You don't have that for Thor. You don't have that for Black Widow, Hawkeye, Hulk. Hulk, you have Hulk Gray. I guess Spider-Man, you do have Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. I guess kind of gives you that, but that's only one. That's only like two,
and it's so based on the older stuff that like it's only 6 issues, and so then if like say Spider-Man Blue is your first Spider-Man comic ever, which I don't think is too bad. I don't think that's bad for it to be your first comic ever.
Decent little origin.
But if you get Spider-Man Blue and that's your first comic ever, and then you expect Spider-Man comics to be like that, like after that initial release, you're gonna be like, oh, this isn't it.
Potentially,
right? Like, no. Whereas, I would say with Batman Year One, you could read Batman Year One, and then if you maybe I don't know, it's different. Batman went through a lot of shifts too. He kind of like there's also that big change of him going from such a grounded character to literally he could square up with gods, But even then, I've argued before that technically Batman has been doing the whole man versus gods thing since the 80s, because Miller also did that in The Dark Knight. He had him beat the hell out of Superman. so
and that's one of my favorite parts of Batman, to be honest, that this regular guy without powers can stand up to gods because of his resourcefulness and his tactical abilities. That's like one of the coolest parts. I love the dichotomy of Detective Batman and Justice League Batman.
Yeah, exactly.
I freaking love diving into both of those so much.
Exactly.
So it's a lot of fun.
And I think, again, a lot of that is because DC, I think, is a little bit more lenient with their creators. So yeah, if Grant Morrison wants to make Batman this like super thought out, character to where he is making, a separate personality in case he goes rogue, if Morrison wants to do that, go ahead and do it. At the same time, Paul Dini could just be writing Batman doing detective work.
Good point.
Right? So you have these two things just kind of coexisting, and it just works because the fans love it. Ultimately, that's the truth of the matter. It's because the fans love it, because the creators get to create the stories that they want. You don't really get that with Spider-Man. You get that for the first like 30 years of Spider-Man. But even then, it's like they're starting to, the most ambitious and like forward shifting time for Spider-Man is probably 1963 to like 1977. And then from there in the 80s, it starts to be like, okay, let's reel in it a little bit. We can't do too much. He's still not with MJ. Then boom, he does marry MJ. Cool. Okay, we've got that. That's a pretty big change. But then it's like, okay, reeling in a little bit. Boom, let's fucking do this huge ass storyline, the Clone Saga, and just really shake things up. Like it's like they went too crazy in the 90s with Spider-Man, and then they kind of dug themselves a hole that they couldn't get out of for a really long time. So it's just it's bizarre.
It's almost like, like you said, it's almost like you have to read Spider-Man in perfect continuity for everything. Everything that happens is just like so linear. No entry points, not a lot of great entry points. Like Birth of Venom, you could do entry points into certain stories like Venom or Carnage. Or whatever it is.
Because Marvel is so focused kind of on, I mean, for the longest time, they were so focused on like, what if this is someone's first single issue, like what if this was their first comic? And so they don't really focus too much on story arcs. Like story arcs weren't that important to them. Original graphic novels weren't that important to them. DC was like, we got to change the game. We got to do something. We got to. And then you get Miller Year One, you get Dark Knight Returns, you get Watchmen. And then after they get Dark Knight and Watchmen, they're like, we need more of this stuff. What else you guys got? And then that's where you get just basically all of Vertigo. And it's just like insane stuff happening. And it's like this creative cesspool of some of the craziest, most creative concepts and ideas. And it's like the most creative Marvel has ever been is the Silver Age. The Silver Age for Marvel is hands down the most imaginative and creative era for Marvel. And that's because they were coming out with these things and they were kind of testing the waters. So like they created a character like Spider-Man and they said, let's make him a teenager. Yep. He's a teenager and he's got powers. He hates it. He's poor. He's got girl problems. He's kind of a jerk. Like, let's do it. He's the opposite of Superman. Boom. It works. It's awesome. Amazing. 10 out of 10 character. Fantastic Four. Let's make a family. Let's make it super sci-fi. Let's come up with basically the whole blueprint to the Marvel universe. It works. But then after a certain point, Marvel's just like, wait a minute. We got to keep these wheels going. We got to make the money. I've said this before. I think ultimately, they're both multi-billion-dollar companies. So obviously the first thing is always going to be money to them. But I do really think that Marvel looks at money in a different way than DC does. Like Marvel really is just like, how can we sell this? DC's like, how can we tell a good story?
Exactly.
So we can sell this. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Nailed it. Look, compare the MCU. Like they don't have the balls to make Elseworlds movies where DC's fully planning on doing that. Compare that to the comics where like all you have from Marvel is the Ultimate Universe, and that's about it. There's a couple stories that are outside that continuity, but DC, you got Injustice, you got your Absolute Universe now, but you also have Kingdom Come. You have all these different,
just like random limited and mini series that are just an author telling their story. The story is just whatever they want to tell, and if you can't. If a writer wants to tell a specific story and it doesn't fit within the continuity, DC will just say, Okay, just make it a limited series, and you're
Right.
good. You're good to go. You don't get that with Marvel.
Yeah,
Like,
it just allows so much more opportunity for great stories.
yeah,
And we could use so much more of that. We need a modern retelling of Iron Man's origin. Do it for
yeah,
Spider-Man. Do it for all the great Marvel characters, like Brubaker's Books of Doom. Like, at least, you know, they've pulled it off a couple of times, I guess. If you have Books of Doom, great little origin for that character. But again, do it with Doctor Strange. Do it with, allow some creative freedom, right? We need
yeah.
good stories, not just a bunch of continuity.
They
And it's almost like they're trying to do what Claremont did, because Claremont did this thing where he kind of made the best of both worlds, where
mhm.
he told great stories. And I'm getting this out of the Omnibus 3, right? And from what I've heard of everyone's opinion of Claremont before, it's just a perfect soap opera where
Yeah,
constant drama going throughout this whole continuity of just so many issues. It's almost like they tried to do that, but they're just missing out on the great drama, the great storytelling that keeps you so engaged. But yeah, because back then it's not like, I mean, still, you don't have a modern retelling of an X-Men origin either. For the X-Men, you kind of would have to go back and start at Claremont and go from there. You know, kind of, you could start at Whedon's Astonishing. You can kind of start at Grant Morrison's New X-Men. But yeah, that's interesting. I never considered that difference of DC characters and Marvel.
yeah. No, I think what Marvel tries to get away with is, to some extent, and to some credit to them, what Marvel will do is they'll give you, like, you'll kind of, when they do new volumes, right? Like all the new number ones, right? Like they're always doing that, right? They'll kind of do something where, like, oh, it's a new volume, so let's, like, you know what? Just throw one page kind of retelling everything and make
Right.
it feel
Right.
contemporary. And it's like they do that so often that it feels meaningless. Like it feels like, okay, like here we go again.
Right.
Like you
Like a
read,
chore to read it. Like, okay, I get it.
yeah,
You don't have to put it in every other story.
exactly. And it's repetitive. It's just the same thing. Like, oh, this is going to be an inner monologue of Peter talking about him remembering being young and becoming Spider-Man. And it's like, okay, thanks. Like, and it's just
Right.
one page, right?
It's just
Whereas
a waste at that point.
yeah, whereas with DC, it's like, nah, there's just definitive stories for these characters' origins. Go check them out and then come back to
Right.
to the moderns. You know what I mean? With
Right.
the occasional kind of like same thing where it's like, oh yeah, let's just do like a quick page or something. I don't know. And then also DC just does creative things like, I was talking to a mutual on TikTok. His name's Yancy. He was telling me about the history of the DC universe, the new history of the DC universe by Mark Waid. I don't know if you know about it, but
Mm-mm.
long story short, and I don't know if I'm even going to do it justice. I think it's a five issue run, like a mini series, and it's Mark Waid giving you the history of the DC universe and like kind of setting up the current continuity. And he does it in a way where it's like one page is like two eras, and he's just giving you like a brief like it's almost like a data page. Think of it like that, like almost like an encyclopedia, but like it flows really well. It looks really interesting, and they do stuff like that where it's like fun and it's accessible. So even if you are like, damn, I want to read, I want to read Batman, but I don't know much about the history. You can pick up that mini series, and it'll give you something. It'll give you a little bit, right? It'll give you more of an understanding than if you didn't. And Marvel just doesn't try that as much. Like they don't try to do fun things like that. They did have Mark Waid also did do that for Marvel like years ago, but like from the reviews and the way people were talking about it and then comparing it to the DC one, he was still really limited on what he was able to do. So again, it's that whole control factor of like, well, why don't you just let him do whatever the hell he wants? If it fails, it fails. But if it succeeds, you guys win more than anyone. Like letting a creator do their own thing, you guys are the ones that come off on top more than anyone. and DC does that way more, and that's why they kind of have the more prestigious storylines and impactful comics, you know.
Yeah, 100%. You almost have to be like into comics for Marvel to like really have your favorite stories, because it's hard to. Yeah, your little entry points, your little creative one and done stories. DC comes out on top big time.
Yeah, and I'm a huge Marvel boy. Like
same.
if you look at my collection, it is majority Marvel. Like,
I think they have better events. I think their events are way better.
Yeah, they're more entertaining. It's a little bit more grounded. Like there's I could yap about what I love about the Marvel universe, but it like the positives unfortunately get outweighed by the negatives when it comes to Marvel. And that's just being real. And DC has its problems as well. They have their issues as well, but at the end of the day, again, their positives are outweighing their negatives, where with Marvel it's a little vice versa, you know.
Yeah. I'm kind of more excited to pick up like a new Green Lantern or Batman comic than I am with most Marvel comics for some reason. You know, there's something about DC that makes me feel like I'm a kid watching cartoons again. I don't know what it is.
No, I get that vibe. Yeah, I get that.
Like lanterns, all that is. Marvel does a great job though at making it pseudo sci-fi, whereas DC is more like fantasy. Like fuck it, we're going full comic booky. Let's go. Yeah. Marvel has a cool way of making it like fit into some kind of science or mythology, which is a sci-fi reach, but it also kind of does fit well, where DC kind of ignores that, and that's okay, because like we said, DC is probably better overall. But yeah, I do like that about Marvel.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, well, let's get into this JMS run. So this is the first arc of this run. It's like Amazing Spider-Man 30 through 35 or something.
Yep.
That's where Morlun is introduced. The rest of Straczynski's run is still like one of my favorites. I think Straczynski's is by far my favorite Spider-Man run overall. And I think even a couple arcs from Straczynski are like in my top 5 Spider-Man arcs ever. Starting with this one, man. And rereading it was a treat. I think I liked it even more reading it the second time.
Yeah.
Because let's get like what the story is about is we start with Peter, you know, doing his crime fighting, meets a guy named Ezekiel who brings up some very interesting questions about Spider-Man's powers. Like, did the spider bite you just out of chance, or did this spider bite you out of some cosmic purpose, right? And he also tells him that there is some other kind of entity that is after totems. And we're talking about all these powers like the Black Panthers. We don't actually get into Black Panther. I was thinking of that because Morlun shows up later in Black Panther comics to eat the Black Panther totem. But it's an unstoppable force, right? They built up this villain really well. And you have this random Ezekiel character talking about Spider-Man's powers like we've never seen before, really, on a very mystical level. Ezekiel also offers him this bunker to stay safe from this being that's coming to eat the spider totem. And he refuses. Spider-Man refuses, goes out, sure enough, meets Morlun, and it's just nothing but brawling after that. And Peter fighting and running and fighting and trying to escape and barely getting away with his life this whole time. So, man, rereading this was so fun because I am a sucker for like the lore, I guess, like diving into Spider-Man's powers, asking these questions that makes you consider if this is a cosmic purpose or something. Right. And then on top of that, having like one of the coolest Spider-Man villains, one of the most kind of scariest Spider-Man villains that I feel is very underrated. I feel like I don't hear enough about Morlun. I would you could just do this comic on the big screen and it would be so exciting. And yeah, Peter kind of figures out how to beat him by the end of it by polluting his own blood with radiation, which, you know, when the villain tries to eat the totem, he eats a polluted totem, so Peter's able to defeat him. But just nothing but excitement, dude. A couple issues of nothing but Spider-Man lore, his powers, his that, and or just him crime fighting, a new character Ezekiel, a new villain Morlun. Man, I think this is one of my absolute favorite little Spider-Man arcs. It's just like a perfect little Spider-Man story for me. Everything I love about comics is kind of stuffed in here. So overall thoughts for you?
I mean, I agree with you kind of like one for one, dude. Like I think the biggest thing that the JMS run did was kind of, it was introduced that concept of the spider totem stuff. And it's interesting because it changes the status quo of Spider-Man. And even like the history of the character, but it also kind of brings it to something that really, I feel like at that point hadn't been done, at least to this extent. And that's kind of like the like the grounded feel of the character, like where it's Spider-Man being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And even though there's like this mystical stuff going on and he's getting his ass kicked by Morlun, which is so crazy to see, like it's so grounded. It's so just him. It's him and Spider-Man. They're fighting. I feel like if this story were written maybe like either a little bit later or even nowadays, I feel like it possibly could have been interrupted with something like, a crossover being thrown in or something. But because JMS was able to kind of just cook in his own title, and it was just Spider-Man fighting Morlun and trying to figure out what to do and ultimately saving the city, it feels so, it just feels grounded. And I think that's what I love most about Spider-Man comics is when they feel grounded. And honestly, I would go as far as to say, this is probably the most grounded, not like this arc is not this arc, but also I would say JMS's run in general. This is probably the most grounded we've ever seen Spider-Man, where he's just so tied to being like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, I think this is where you kind of look at characters like the street tier characters, right? Like Luke Cage and the Heroes for
Punisher,
Hire,
Daredevil,
and Punisher, Daredevil, and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, Spider-Man's like really powerful, but he also kind of falls in line with those guys. And it's like that original concept of there's a threat in New York. Who's there to protect you? It's Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man, and that's where it kind of separates it from the characters of like the Fantastic Four and the Avengers, right? They're always they're doing cosmic stuff. The X-Men are fighting their own issues. And with Spider-Man, it just feels grounded. I keep going back to that because I think that's ultimately what it is. And it can still be this like action-packed thing. It can still be this massive scales. Like I remember reading it for the first time. I was like, how the fuck is he going to beat this guy?
Right.
Like, oh my God, what's he going to do? And I love the outcome of it. The radiation or whatever, or
it makes sense. Yeah,
it makes sense. And I love it because it shows, again, it's like, it's Peter having to be quick and he has to be smart. And it taps into that part of Peter Parker where it's like, this dude was a scientist. Like a lot that kind of gets forgotten a lot, but he's a scientist. That's what he loves. That's what he wanted to be before he became a superhero. That's what he eventually becomes. He's a scientist. He's a creative. He's a genius. Mm-hmm. And so it's cool because it's like you see him in that time be like, I got to figure something out. And then he figures it out. And it's badass. It's so badass.
Well, yeah, it's like a perfect, it's kind of hard to nail the third act of a lot of comics. Some of my favorite comics have kind of a lousy third act. However, they defeat the villain can be a little convoluted or strange or something. So I think Spider-Man, right. Yeah. I think Spider-Man thrives in the kind of simpler hero versus villain story. Like Sam Raimi's versus Green Goblin versus Dr. Octopus. He really thrives in that. And also this comic thrives on that, but also adds another dimension, a deeper thought process of his powers. So I thought that was just like real tricky how they did that. So they did all the best of both worlds. You kind of went outside of the status quo and did some weird stuff, but it was also simple and grounded hero versus villain.
Exactly.
So it's like one of the coolest, like one of the funnest little reads there. Just 6 issues. I'd say this is one of the better. I mean, it's one of the easiest entry points for Spider-Man because it is like one of the best isolated little 6-issue arcs for Spider-Man.
100%. I would agree. Yeah.
So the interesting thing about Morlun, great villain, like a villain I think needs more attention. We need an on-screen appearance for this villain. Interestingly enough, the Spider-Verse comics, which we've seen the Spider-Verse movies intro and Across the Spider-Verse, the comics those were based off of, Morlun was actually the main villain of those as well. Mm-hmm. we learn that he has like a whole family in Loom World, a whole different universe. They're multiversal travelers that eat totems. So real quick, like, how did you think of Morlun coming back for Spider-Verse, and how did you like Spider-Verse?
So I have the omnibus, and I haven't read like the full event, like Spider-Verse with Spider-Geddon and stuff. From what I remember, I thought it was pretty enjoyable. It's at that point you're kind of taking Dan Slott, like, this was all off the foundation of JMS, right? Like JMS, he didn't necessarily invent the Spider-Verse, but like there was a lot of groundwork that he laid to where then Dan Slott could be like, yo, what if we did a Spider-Verse, right? Like, and then it blew up into this thing. So I like how it's tied into that. I love how it kind of ties back to the JMS stuff. And it's a pretty like big, fun adventure. It's cool to see all the different like variants and stuff like that. Obviously, like kind of the more popular ones. And I think it's cool that it works that way. Basically, is like I think it's a good fit. Like I think when the thing about Morlun is you kind of brought this up, but like he is a very underrated character. But to some credit to the people that don't really know much about him or don't care to look further into him, he doesn't get used a lot. Like that's the thing. And the problem then is he gets used JMS. That's a banger. Amazing. Great concept. Spider-Verse, great connection. Great way to kind of make him the antagonist again.
Amplify him a little bit too.
But then they just keep using him for Spider-Verse related things. And so it's kind of like they just keep repeating that same type of trope. So like I don't know if you've read like Edge of Spider-Verse.
Like haven't.
I don't recommend that one.
For sure.
But it's just kind of another Spider. So yeah, there's Spider-Geddon. Well, Spider-Geddon and Spider-Verse kind of go together, but like Edge of Spider-Verse, that was like a few years ago. I want to say like 2021, maybe 2020. I could be wrong. But like it's more recent. It's definitely a lot more recent. It was definitely them just kind of trying to cash in on the whole, second Spider-Verse movie coming out. But like it's just kind of like now this time it's like, oh, this time Morlun is there to help them and there's a bigger multiversal threat. And it's like, why? Like just use him in a different way. Like you've already introduced him and like kind of changed possibly the mythos of Spider-Man. You do this grander scale thing with the Spider-Verse, and then you just do the Spider-Verse again. It's like, why not just do something else? Do a different type of story. Funny enough, I think Morlun's like, honestly, I would say his second best. I think Morlun's like second best story is actually in Life Story, Spider-Man Life Story, which is like an Elseworlds thing, and it's just basically JMS again. Because have you read Life Story?
I have not. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I've read part of Life Story. Yeah,
was Zdarsky?
So I didn't know more. No, it's Zdarsky. I didn't get to any Morlun coming back though, so I actually didn't love it, dude. I was like, I felt like I was reading another origin of Peter, and then you had these weird changes in the universe, and I felt like I was reading another Bendis Ultimate Spider-Man, and I just wasn't like interested in that. I didn't want that, so I just stopped reading, even though everyone says Spider-Man Life Story is one of the best.
Yeah. Here's the thing about Life Story, not to get too far off track, but I love that book. I think it's a perfect book in my opinion. But I think the reason I love it is because I love Spider-Man so much. And I think I used to be like so like hard-headed about it. I'd be like, if you don't like Life Story, well, you're the problem. But the truth of the matter is,
it's like All-Star Superman. That's what I don't like that one. And people are like,
that one's crazy, dude. I'm not going to lie to you. That's insane. That one is nuts. That one is on you. No, but
very minority there. Yeah.
But like the problem with Life Story is it very much is kind of fan service. It's a story that caters to a certain level of Spider-Man fan. That definitely should never be your first Spider-Man story. That really shouldn't be like, even if you're just like, say you're into the movies and you know the origin of Spider-Man and you know most of his rogues, like, again, it's to cater to a very specific Spider-Man fan. And so with that, the fault is it's not accessible, like we talked about earlier. But the pro is that catering to certain Spider-Man fans like me, who have read a lot of Spider-Man and who love the character mainly because of the comics more than anything, it's a chef's kiss. It's a love letter to Spider-Man fans. But if you grew up and, let's say, even you just read JMS and then you like the Raimi films and you love the Tom Holland films and you read this book, you're going to be like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? But like, for someone like me, my first exposure to Spider-Man was the Raimi films, and then it was the Silver Age comics, and then it was more comics and more comics and more comics. I love that. It caters to me. It works for me. But I completely understand why someone who isn't that into the character in the comics wouldn't really vibe with it, because it's basically fan service. I'll just say it. Which that is a problem. That you shouldn't. Again, it's like you should be able to write stories to where it's really accessible to everybody. But I also appreciate Zdarsky and what he did and how creative he got with the fan service.
Yeah.
And funny enough, again, to tie it back to what we were talking about with Marvel versus DC, Chip Zdarsky wanted that run. It's a 6-issue miniseries. Chip Zdarsky wanted that run to be an ongoing.
Oh.
So he wanted it to be like a 30-issue plus comic where he told the story of Spider-Man, but as he's aging throughout the years. So that's the point of Life Story, right? Is like, what if Spider-Man kept aging with us, right? And so that's where you get like a lot of different things and concepts. Zdarsky wanted it to be an ongoing. Marvel said no. Marvel editorial said no, and they said, make it a 6-issue mini and you're good. So I firmly believe that if Zdarsky would have gotten the opportunity to do an ongoing, like let's say 30 issues, because I think that's what he said in an interview once. 30 issues in a 6-issue series, you can give every era, instead of every era getting one issue, right, every era can now get an arc.
Right.
And it feels more fleshed out. And that now does give the opportunity for a newer reader to be like, oh, okay, so this is kind of the vibes of what 60 Spider-Man was. Right. And it would still be fan service, and it would still ultimately not be the best first read for a new Spider-Man reader, because Zdarsky has to come up with new concepts, because the whole point is that Spider-Man is aging. And so that definitely would happen, but it would be more fleshed out, and it would, I think, be a lot better if that wasn't like a 30-issue run opposed to it only being 6.
Yeah, that would be more attractive for me, because I felt like I was going to just do 6 issues of the Marvels, Busiek, kind of just like going through the history of Spider-Man, but an alternate history of Spider-Man. So I was just like, yeah, kind of put off. But I can't tell you how many times I've read a story, didn't like it, put it away, and then months later came back to it and absolutely loved it. So that's on the plan, to try to read that one and actually finish it, because sometimes if you get to the end of a story, it all makes more sense.
Yeah, it kind of wraps up, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would recommend, honestly, dude, if you want to get more into like Spider-Man and stuff, and then you find yourself getting more into Spider-Man, read that Spider-Man and then maybe revisit Life Story. But it's Life Story's fault that a lot of people are kind of put off by it, for sure.
Okay. I think what it is about JMS's run is it brought that edginess to Spider-Man that was kind of consistent with the later 2000s. Kind of the style of your Frank Miller and Alan Moore. The stakes also a little bit. They got JMS Spider-Man really feels like that. I think I do like a little more darker comics, if not even dark, but at least like significant and like big impactful,
like real
comics,
right?
Yeah,
like real, yeah, like it,
like I don't love reading issues that are just volume after volume of just, just kind of coasting, good character development, sure, but like not a lot happening. Like I almost
Mhm.
want to like learn stuff and,
Yeah,
just really crazy things happening. And I think that's what Straczynski brought to Spider-Man for when he was doing it.
for sure. He like yeah, he did a lot of things that ultimately impacted not just the future of the character and like what he would become, but also like made it to like if you go back to the origins, like it kind of changes the history in a really positive way, I would say.
Yeah. Straczynski's Spider-Man in and out of Civil War was incredible too. I think
Mm.
some of the Amazing Spider-Man lead up to Civil War like almost should have been a part of the event. The way he's talking to Tony Stark about his perspective on the not Sokovia Accords, the Superhero Registration Act.
Yeah.
You really see Tony Stark's perspective on why he's so committed to that side through the pages of Amazing Spider-Man. And even after Civil War, when he reveals his identity and Aunt May gets shot, Back in Black is one of the coolest Spider-Man stories. Just
It's a
nothing but a
banger.
pissed off Spider-Man like
Yeah.
going after Kingpin, and such a satisfying ass whooping for Kingpin in the prison. So tying in and out of that event was a lot of fun. Yeah. So Straczynski killed it there too.
I think the thing I love so much about uh Straczynski is I think he's the perfect example of just a really good writer.
Yeah.
So good that he almost can't be stopped. And this is my example. Then this is kind of tying it back to what we were talking about with Marvel and DC, right? Marvel editorial is so hands-on with their books, right? Like they're almost a little controlling when it comes to their titles. So ultimately, if Marvel wants you to do something as the writer, even though it's your book, you got to do it. And when it came to Spider-Man editorial, at that point, there was so many things that they were throwing at Straczynski that any other writer probably would have fumbled, or any other writer maybe would have been overwhelmed, or maybe would have underperformed. But Straczynski hit it on the head. I think really he only missed once. So you think of stuff like we talked about Civil War, right? Civil War is a Marvel event, and when it comes to Marvels and their events, what do they always love? They love their tie-ins. They've loved it since the 80s or since the 90s. And I think a good example of, and my favorite example of Marvel killing a book with their crossovers is Peter David's Hulk. I don't know if you've ever read it,
Nope.
but it is a phenomenal run, not just for Hulk, but just in general comics. Peter David
Okay.
had some great ideas when it came to the character. Towards the tail end, the run is terrible. And I hate to say it because Peter David, may he rest in peace, was an amazing writer. And the only reason his Hulk run towards the end is almost unreadable is because of the constant interference from editorial and him having to do these crossover events. So it was during the Heroes Reborn and Heroes Return era. So, that was like when they were that's when like Marvel went bankrupt, right? And they like leased out their characters. And that's where they were in the pocket dimension for a bit. So you had like Fantastic Four #1 by Jim Lee and Brandon Choi and stuff. And so like it was just Marvel trying to make money because they had just gone bankrupt. But they still also wanted it to kind of be a narrative in the story. Oh, why did these heroes disappear? So they kept messing with Peter David's Hulk. Because Hulk was kind of a focal character to the story because they just decided to. So Peter David just got done telling this amazing story with Maestro, and you could tell he was kind of leading into something else, but he had to keep doing these tie-ins, and he had to keep writing with Heroes Reborn and Heroes Return kind of messing up with his flow. He ultimately left the run, and I don't know if it's stated, but I think it's because of how much he had to work around all these tie-ins and events. Straczynski kind of had a similar situation. Civil War happens, right? It's this massive event. Everybody gets a tie-in issue, right? Everybody has tie-in issues. And to what could have totally messed up his flow, he just absolutely nails it on the head. On boom.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to use the characteristics of Peter Parker to put him next to Tony, who is this, who is being the corporate guy, who is being the, the lawful guy, right? Like he's kind of, if the whole point of Mark Millar's Civil War was, like left versus right, or the
government versus
yeah, exactly, right, stuff like that. Tony is more of that conservative character, right? But through, like you said, there's a lot of great perspective through the Spider-Man issues, and I think that's done on purpose, because I think it's like, here's this character Spider-Man who is genuinely a good individual. He's probably the best. Like, I think they've said it. Like, I don't know which characters have said it, but there's definitely been a character that's like, you're the best of us. Like, you are the best of us when it comes to, like, just Spider-Man being a good guy. He's the best of the Marvel universe. And he is next to the more conservative kind of corporate guy that's trying to, like, pass this restrictive law, or is on the side of passing this restrictive law and hearing out why they should do this restrictive law. And you get a lot of logic. And it's like, you were almost kind of in the seat of Spider-Man, Peter Parker, to where we're like, we're just trying to be understanding. Lives were hurt. Lives were lost. Why wouldn't we be, you could argue that Spider-Man was a little bit manipulated. Why wouldn't we be manipulated, right? Like, why wouldn't we be manipulated? So Straczynski does that amazingly, where he doesn't let that book is, the Civil War arc is amazing. It's a near perfect arc. And again, it's because it shows you how Peter Parker's almost, I don't want to say naiveness, but, like, again, just the fact that he is that character that kind of expects the best out of other people, especially kind of a older brother or maybe father figure like Tony Stark.
Right.
He expects the best out of them, and he's going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And then you look at Back in Black. Back in Black literally was editorial, because Spider-Man 3 was coming out. Editorial was like, we got to get this dude in a black suit, and we need to do it now. And he needs to be in every single comic wearing the black suit. And Straczynski was like, okay, you know what? Screw it. He's going to be more aggressive. Ahmed gets shot. That's a great lead into, he got convinced by Tony. He reveals his identity. Boom, right away, we're going to make him kind of regret it. He's wearing the black suit because he's trying to show everybody. The black suit is now symbolic of, if Spider-Man is wearing it, he means business. Right. No quips. It's all serious. It kind of set up that, like, because beforehand, it was either Venom, right? So it's just Spider-Man. He's wearing the black suit. He's the symbiote. Or he would wear it because his red suit was dirty, or because he got ripped up, right? Like that mid 80s era of Spider-Man, when he would alternate between the black suit, it was just because fans liked the black suit. So Marvel was like, yeah, have him wear the black suit this issue. Then he'll wear the red. You know what I mean? But now Straczynski changes it, and he's like, no, let's give meaning to the black suit. Let's make the black suit him being serious, him being more violent, more aggressive. Perfectly done. And he accomplishes the goal of what Marvel editorial wants. They want him in the black suit. I gave him a reason to wear a black suit. I didn't just put him in the black suit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he makes his stories just interesting and very readable. And I remember he did that for Thor, and he must have been a busy dude, because this is Civil War era as well.
Yeah.
But he brought Thor back, and Thor comes to Earth, where Tony is policing the heroes, and Thor's like, hell no, and whoops his ass. It's like one of my favorite, like, hero versus hero 1v1s ever. He's like, Iron Man's like, what? Have you been working out? He says something stupid like that, and then Thor's like, no, I'm just not holding back this time.
Yeah,
it was badass. And that was Straczynski as well.
Yeah, No, he knows how to pivot, and even when like, because like I think the low points that everybody brings up is Sins Past and One More Day, right? But even Sins Past, I kind of have no excuse for. That storyline is kind of just crazy. Like it's just
crazy.
It's just kind of insane.
A little much. Yeah.
It's like,
it's like what? What do you mean that happened? And there's no way that happened.
and I want to be able to blame Marvel editorial for that, but I think that was all. I think that was all JMS. Like I think that was all him, just kind of trying to
be too edgy, bro.
Yeah, right. But the other, so that's his one. That's his one fault. I'll give him that.
Right.
But even One More Day, people don't like One More Day because of what it led to with Spider-Man and kind of the regression and kind of the disrespect to the character. I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. But when you look at the One More Day comic, like the 6-issue arc with JMS writing, with Quesada on artwork, it's a fun, good book.
I liked it. Yeah,
it's a fun
I thought
story.
I wasn't. Everyone told me I was not going to like it when I opened it up because Omnibus Volume 2 to Straczynski. I really liked it. It was fun.
Yeah, it's also because again, that's where Straczynski's like a good writer no matter what. People, they like to chat up that run and kind of give it crap. Not because of what the run, not because of what that arc is, like not how it's written, not how it's paced, not how it flows, not the entertainment value, but because of what it did, right? Like the decision to separate Peter and MJ, kind of how silly it is. But I think there's certain pieces where it's like JMS does a good job to be like, yeah, like, you know, maybe it's like I've been debunked by this. I had a debate with another Spider-Man fan it was some random guy on Instagram. And I got into it with him because he said that One More Day was atrocious. I was saying, no, I think it's actually really great. And I think it makes sense. My original argument was that I think it makes sense because when you look at like the moment in Spider-Man 500 with the end where he gets to talk to Uncle Ben, right? With Doctor Strange gives him that moment.
Yes.
Like one of the last things, if not the last thing that Uncle Ben says to Peter is take care of May. Like, please, just whatever you do, like just take care of her. Right. And then he's gone again. And since then, Peter has not like canonically talked to Uncle Ben. So to me, I'm like, okay, that makes sense then if that's on the brain. And then you add the fact that his life has just completely been turned upside down with the Civil War events. It makes sense for him to be acting hectic. And it makes sense for him to be like, yeah, no, like I hate this. I hate that my life has become this. And now someone like Mary Jane is constantly in danger. And my mother figure is now dead because I chose this. They're better off without me. They're better off without me. My Aunt May should be alive and nobody should know who the hell I am. The problem is when you read other Spider-Man comics, like at the time, like Spectacular and Sensational or Friendly Neighborhood, whatever else was coming out, you could definitely tell that the writers weren't on the same page because there is literally pages and pages and pages of kind of Aunt May reassuring Peter that he should always choose Mary Jane. And there's a lot of like pages and moments where Mary Jane tells Peter that it's her life and she chooses to be with him. So you kind of have a lot of context where it's like, yeah, Peter, you should have chosen Mary Jane. And really the only moments where it feels like it makes sense that Peter chose Aunt May is within the JMS run. And I think if they would have just let that, it would have felt a little bit better. But because there is canonically other context to where it's like Aunt May is telling him, you should be with Mary Jane, marry her, don't worry about me, let me die. And Mary Jane is saying, I don't care what you say, you're the greatest love of my life, you're my soulmate, I will take a bullet for you if I need to. Because that happens, One More Day just looks even worse. So that's the problem. And again, I blame that on editorial because they weren't smart enough to be like, hey, we got to all be on the same page, right? Like they were just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like this is what needs to happen because we want Peter to be single again. Like that was all it was. But again, when you look at it as a story, those 6 issues, that's a fun story. It's intense. Peter's pissed. You know, he's when he confronts Iron Man is so cool. Like he got them all webbed up and stuff like that. So I think even when given a really tough challenge, at the end of the day, JMS is going to give you an entertaining and fun book that works well with the character.
Have you read Silver Surfer Requiem?
I have not.
That is a great one. Straczynski as well.
I didn't realize it was him until literally like a couple days ago. I saw someone made a video and they it was a slideshow and it was like talking about the best Marvel comics ever or something like that. And Silver Surfer Requiem was on there and it said by J. Michael Straczynski. And I was like, he wrote that? That's crazy.
Great.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when you said someone named Spider-Man one of the best characters in the Marvel Universe, I immediately thought that might have been Silver Surfer in that run. He does have a long conversation with Spider-Man, a very reflective conversation about their history because Silver Surfer knows he's going to die. And I could be wrong about that, but that's where my mind went directly to. I almost want to say Silver Surfer is the one that said, like, yeah, you're the best of us, dude.
Yeah, like I feel like Wolverine's definitely said it too. Like it's definitely a repeating occurrence because I think that's the whole point. I think
it's like Superman saying it to Nightwing.
You know? Yeah, exactly. Right.
So that's cool. All right. Well, let's get into one more short topic and let's get back to the movies. And I really appreciate your comic book knowledge there, dude. Absolutely killed it. And I love all the perspectives you brought to the table. And now we're talking about the MCU. Now, I'm just curious what you think or what you could expect from Spider-Man 4 coming out next year. And maybe even how that might tie into Doomsday. If you think he'll be in Doomsday, maybe we could talk about how Spider-Man in the comics got his suit in Secret Wars. And, you know, maybe we'll see a symbiote attached to Spider-Man in Secret Wars. So what do you see from Spider-Man 4 and the next couple of Avenger movies for the character?
Yeah. I'm a little MCU fatigued. And
understandable.
So I'm not like not recently, but like I watched the month it came out. I watched Fantastic Four. I watched Thunderbolts on streaming. And I thought those were 2 really great movies. So obviously those are the last 2 MCU projects. So I think like they're producing really great films again, it feels like, especially with those 2. And I really, obviously I love Spider-Man. I thought, the Tom Holland trilogy is pretty consistent, I would say. I actually really love Far From Home. A lot of people don't like it.
I do too. I'm totally on that boat with you. I think
it's fucking awesome.
Really cool. Very unique.
Exactly. Right. Like, I guess I understand why some people don't like it, but I don't know. And then, what's the
No Way Home?
No Way Home. I couldn't remember. No Way Home is also really fun. It's obviously cool to see Andrew and
that's fan service at its best.
It's fan service at its best, but it is really cool. I'm so pissed off that they didn't just go all the way and add a 6th villain to do kind of the 6.
Yeah,
it was so weird that they really just left one off and
5. You did 5.
You're right. Like what? But Brand New Day, I'm kind of excited for because I do like that ending where it kind of plays into One More Day, and it's kind of supposed to be a back to base. It feels like it's kind of going to be a back to basics thing. You have kind of that. Sorry, my dogs are like going crazy in the back. It's kind of supposed to be that like, ending chapter of like, yeah, Peter was so reliant on Tony Stark and in general just so reliant on kind of being connected to these other characters and the overall MCU we're finally kind of going to give him that movie, even though I do think there's some leeway with that. We're finally going to give him that movie where it's like, this is what it's going to feel like, a grounded Spider-Man. But then they throw other stuff on there.
I
like
know we got Hulk and
we
Punisher.
got Hulk, Punisher, Daredevil. Like, honestly, I would have been fine if it was just Daredevil and Punisher. I still kind of would have been like, come on. But now you're throwing Hulk in there.
That's the weird one.
And I'm just like, Hulk and Spider-Man have a pretty unique like history and like, you know, whatever, but it's not like big enough to where it makes sense to put it in a movie. Like, it's not like Hulk and Wolverine, right? Like, that makes more sense. Honestly, the Spider-Man and Doctor Strange in No Way Home made more sense because Spider-Man and Doctor Strange are more connected than anything than like, you know, Spider-Man and Hulk. But yeah, like, I don't know, like, I think, what's it supposed to be, Mr. Negative, right?
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, so you got Mr. Negative, which, again, like, if you're going to do something like that, then make it feel like how that era and time of comics felt, where it was just Spider-Man. Spider-Man was just handling that business, you know what I mean? Like, he was just dealing with it. Like, I don't think we need the Hulk involved. I really don't even think we need like Daredevil and Punisher involved. If you were going to involve them, I would say maybe just involve Punisher. I wouldn't even want to involve Daredevil, to be honest. But yeah, like, I'm not going to lie, that brought down my excitement a little bit because I was like, finally, we're going to get Tom Holland, you know, just kind of doing his own thing. And and it's going to be, you know, maybe it'll be a little bit more grounded and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know what. And I want, like, I like Mr. Negative, but I do wish they would have gone like, I don't know. It's hard because they just did all, like, with No Way Home, they technically did Goblin, right? They technically did Doc Ock and stuff like that. But like, I don't know. Like, I would want to see like a staple guy. Like, give me
Morlun, baby.
Yeah, give me Morlun. Yeah, why not, right? But yeah, I don't know. I'm still really excited. It's probably going to be a day one watch for me, which that's been a while for the MCU.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what to expect. I mean, he's not supposed to be in Doomsday, right? He wasn't one of the people.
That's what they say. Yeah.
But
I don't know if I believe it, dude.
I don't know. Honestly, you know what I want from the MCU? I don't even want like another. I want to see how this Brand New Day goes. And then depending on how that goes and leading into Doomsday, leading into Secret Wars. I know that this is already like speculated. But I'm ready for the reboot. I'm ready for like an MCU reboot.
Yeah.
Like, just start over. You guys have all the characters now. Reset the universe.
The X-Men coming too is going to be
huge
like, for them.
Reintroduce the MCU with the Fantastic Four, lead into other things, and just kind of give us more individual movies. Like, I think that's one of the best parts about like the recent DC stuff. Like Batman, right? Like, he's not a part of the DC EU or whatever, like Robert Pattinson's Batman, but that Batman movie is so good. Like, it's its own thing. It's able to exist on its own. Superman, even though it's connected into the new DC universe, Superman still feels like its own thing. It feels like James Gunn made the movie he wanted to make. Whereas with like the MCU, it feels like, hey, like, we need a Spider-Man movie, man, and we need to remind people that there's other people in this universe. You know what I mean? Like,
it almost feels like a contractual obligation
to
include a bunch of characters, because every single MCU Spider-Man movie has been loaded with other characters. Iron Man in the first one, Nick Fury in the second one, and then obviously in the third one. So I mean, and then the fourth one, because I'm not gonna lie, when the kid in me gets a little excited with Hulk being in this movie, right? Yeah. And the Punisher and this and that. But then the logic side says like, yeah, you just said we're going more grounded. and we're just going to get Spider-Man fighting crime plus a main villain, which is like the best of Spider-Man. And then what the hell is Punisher doing in there? What the hell's Hulk especially doing in there? Punisher being thrown into a PG-13 movie too. You don't know how that's going to work. I've always felt like it works fine. Like people say Deadpool can't go into Avengers because it won't fit. I think it's pretty easy to make that fit. He just doesn't throw as many F-bombs. But like the Punisher, I feel like they're obviously going to bring the concept to the table of like the morality of killing. I think that's going to be another one of those rooftop scenes that Daredevil and Punisher had. But then you just got to wonder what the hell the Hulk's doing in there. One thing that I really hope, though, is that we could see a completely like not holding back Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man versus Hulk is probably going to happen for at least one point. He's probably going to lose control. Mr. Negative might be controlling the Hulk.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
And I'm kind of excited for the prospect of seeing Spider-Man fight the Hulk. And it just feels kind of gimmicky though, because like it's going to be like Hulk is going to get controlled and Spider-Man's going to help stop him, and then he's going to be a good guy by the end of it. Again, it's not going to be mind washed, and they got to go focus on the main villain. But at the same time, it still kind of sounds exciting, dude. Hulk, because hopefully the real Hulk comes back. He's just been terrible. The character, they've just butchered the Hulk character for a good 8 years now, ever since he was like the worst part of Infinity War, in my opinion. Bruce Banner's character. I even liked Smart Hulk better in Endgame than whatever they did with Bruce Banner in Infinity War. But like the Hulk character needs a serious redemption, like more than any other character on the big screen ever.
I agree.
It's just weird that it's in a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like I said, Punisher. I mean, Punisher kind of makes sense. Like he debuted in Spider-Man. And so there is that connection with Spider-Man, and I like what you said. It's definitely going to be like a morality kind of thing, just with Spider-Man now, which is just fine. But yeah, then it's just throwing too much in the mix. I think it's like I think a simple story where it would have just been Spider-Man fighting Mr. Negative and his goons would have been just fine. I think people would have still ate that up. And then if you want to throw one cameo in there at the end or towards the end, go ahead. But like, if Spider-Man in the comics doesn't need Hulk's help to fight Mr. Negative, then Spider-Man in the movie shouldn't either. Just let it be, man. But I don't know. We'll see. I still am excited. Just I've lost that. The last movie I felt like butterflies in my stomach for the MCU was Infinity War. Like that was the last movie where I was like, I can't wait to get here. Thor Ragnarok ends and you've got that scene at the end with the post credits and it's just like, oh my God, I can't wait for this movie. You're watching the trailer over and over again. You don't know what's going to happen. And then you watch the movie and it's like, hell yeah, I love Infinity War. And it's just, like it's a rush, like I will never probably get that feeling again with the MCU of just like adrenaline, basically just like, oh my God, this is so freaking cool, dude. Like I haven't had that since Infinity War. Even Endgame, I was like, all right, yeah, that was cool. But Infinity War, my fiance and I, we went to go see it 4 times in one day. That's how hyped we were. That's how high the peak was of the MCU. And unfortunately, I think nowadays they're just kind of a little bit plateaued.
Well, there's direct correlation with the CEO shakeup after Infinity War and Bob Chapek came in. He was the CEO and it immediately turned into business. Just putting product out there, quantity over quality. And, that's changed now. We got Bob Iger back, the guy who was the CEO before Chapek came in. And that's why I think the movies have gotten a little better. And that's why I'm a little more optimistic about the future of Marvel. Because I've been with you, dude, for the past 6-7 years. I'm like not even excited to go see Marvel movies. You can't even like restock your rewatch pile with these Marvel movies. Like it was so fun after Endgame came out to go like rewatch all the MCU stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that with anything post Endgame really, except, Spider-Man. Guardians 3 was good.
Yeah.
There's been a couple good things, but last question, then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Do you expect Doomsday to be good?
You know, I mentioned this, but Thunderbolts was really good. Fantastic Four was really good. I'd like to think that there's a pattern right now because Doomsday is the next one, right? There's nothing in between Doomsday and
Spider-Man 4 actually comes out first.
oh, does it?
It does.
Okay.
Because think about like the impact of Spider-Man looking at a character Robert Downey Jr. is playing and thinking it's Tony Stark and the emotional impact there. And maybe because I was always thinking maybe Doom shows up at the end of Spider-Man 4 and says, dude, we have really, really important stuff to do. Come with me. And Spider-Man immediately trusts him and goes with him, thinking it's whoever. And then that's your intro. Like that's your end credit scene before Secret Wars or whatever it's called, Doomsday. But with the reports of him not being in Doomsday, like I could see that maybe he won't be in Doomsday. Absolutely will be in Secret Wars. Like there's no way Tom Holland's not going to be in your both Avenger movies.
Yeah.
But you also have like he's probably the most connected to that character, like emotionally out of anybody in the MCU existing right now. And you gotta play off that. Spider-Man, not only that, but Spider-Man's probably your most popular character in the MCU right now. Like seeing him in the Avengers trailer will get people in the seats for sure. And he has that connection with a character that would look like RDJ. So yeah. But you also have the Russo brothers back, the directors of Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame.
Yeah.
That gives me so much hope, dude, because they know how to tell Avenger movies. You know, they know how to tell MCU stories. And with RDJ coming as Doom, and that could be a whole nother episode on its own, but why he looks like Tony Stark or is he dream walking? The director said that it does tie into the death in Endgame. Like maybe it was Doom dream walk into Tony Stark's body while he has the Infinity Gauntlet or something. You're like, why does he look like Tony Stark? But Spider-Man's got to be connected to that. You're going to play off that emotion with your probably two main stars of the whole movie. But what are your thoughts on all that?
Honestly, I feel like you sold it more than probably they have for me. But I have faith. I think I just need to see something. I need that trailer and I need to see what it's all about because honestly, like I said, I think I'm too MCU fatigued to be excited for any future project or be like, oh yeah, like I watched Thunderbolts after it came out on streaming. So at that point it was like I think like 4 months after it had initially been released. And then I watched Fantastic Four I think like a month after it released actually. And it was only because so many people were praising it and like everybody was talking about it. So I kind of need to like I need a little something to pull me in, you know what I mean? To like
100%.
To actually be like, okay, I'll check it out. And I don't think it just being the next Avengers movie is enough for me, unfortunately, to be like I guess to answer it, I think it has potential to at least be good.
Entertaining,
like just decent, right? Like I don't think it'll be a bad movie. I don't think it'll be bad. You know, I don't think it'll be like Brave New World, like the fourth Cap one. I didn't like that one. I thought that movie was kind of mid.
Yeah, it was.
And that was one of the more recent releases, right? So I don't think it'll reach that. I think it'll slightly be above that.
Yeah.
But I think there is, you know, potential reach for it to be like a really good movie.
Yeah, I see a high ceiling with RDJ as the main villain because I think they have a creative way to make that work. I don't think they would just do that because of the star power.
Exactly.
I think that came from an idea, not just like, oh, let's get RDJ back. So, and yeah, so the Russo brothers, I'm pretty confident, man, but I think it is the most important trailer they have ever released because they don't have that trust that they used to have.
Exactly.
You have a lot of people on the fence right now, and yeah, I think this needs to be like their best trailer ever to get people like, holy shit, I have to go see that. Like what they have to reveal some big stuff, at least, you know, one or two big things that's like, holy shit, something that you can connect to from the previous MCU, but also buy into this brand new character that looks just like Tony Stark. It's gonna be tough.
So. Yeah, that's interesting.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys for joining us. Go follow Omnibus God. It is at Omnibus God, TikTok and YouTube. Excellent comic book content. We are going to be covering Stranger Things coming out tomorrow, if you're listening live. This week, though, Stranger Things, a lot of stuff coming out. We're going to be covering that along with our Week Geeks nerd news. And yeah, a couple comic reviews here and there. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time at Why So Sidious on Nerd Podcast. And Omnibus God, thank you, David, for coming in, man. I really appreciate it. Great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah, I hope you come back again, dude, because it seems like you have an endless stream of knowledge, and I'm excited to tap into that.
Yeah, I'm down to talk anytime, dude.
Hell yeah. Take care, guys. That's embarrassing.